Specific training is training that is unique to the firm in question and can't be transferred to other firms. That is, it is not general training. That means that our employer has to take the hit financially when they invest in training. That is, they get a lower marginal revenue product from that worker, but have to continue to pay them the untrained wage. And then after the training, they get a higher marginal revenue product as their return. They continue to pay them the untrained wage. So from the worker's standpoint, they see the same wage throughout the training and post-training period, but from the employer's standpoint, they are losing marginal revenue product during the training period and gaining marginal revenue product after the training period. So up to this point, that should be pretty clear, and it should emphasize the fact that the worker would have no real incentive to leave the firm after the post-training period because the skills that they've acquired are not transferable. But firms may want to provide an extra layer of protection against a worker leaving. Because if a firm has made an investment, that is, during the training period, they have taken this hit in terms of paying more than what the worker is generating in marginal revenue product. If they've made this investment, then it might be in their best interest to reduce the odds that that worker will leave. And that means paying a post-training wage that is a little bit higher than the untrained wage. Now, it's important to note, there is nothing in terms of the training investment that would lead the firm to have to pay a higher wage, because the skills that the worker have are skills that are specific to the employer and not transferable to other firms. So if the worker says, well, now I've got these new skills, I'm going to go across the street to your competitor and command a higher wage commensurate with my higher marginal revenue product, they can't do that because they don't have skills that are transferable to the competing firm across the street. That means the worker is in no position to negotiate a higher wage commensurate with their marginal revenue product as a result of this training. But that doesn't change the fact that workers do leave anyway. There's many reasons that there's turnover in a company. And if a firm has made a training investment, they might want to ensure or lower the odds that the worker leaves. So they pay a little bit more than the untrained wage, but they don't pay the full amount of the increased marginal revenue product. So using our numbers from last time, if the untrained wage is $15 an hour, then maybe once the training is complete, the firm says, okay, we know this worker is going to produce a marginal revenue product of $18 an hour, but we're going to go ahead and pay them $16 an hour, $1 more than the untrained wage. So not only do they get a little bit of an increase in productivity above what they're paying them, that's the return on their investment in training, but they also reduce the odds that the worker will leave because they're paying the worker a wage that is now higher than the untrained wage that they were getting before. Now let's wrap up with some controversies about the human capital model. This model is an investment model. As I said at the outset, this is the same kind of thought process we go through when looking at investing in stocks and bonds and other types of financial assets. It's the same thought process that businesses go through when they decide to make an investment in new machinery, equipment, and technology. It is a very universal model that helps us understand the decision to invest, that is, give up something today for a future return. A question arises, however, about the applicability of this model to human capital, more specifically to investment in college and on-the-job training. One issue is that education itself may have consumption value. It's easy to look at the returns in dollar terms. For example, if we plug into our model that without a college degree you would make $50,000, but with a college degree you'll make $75,000, that's a $25,000 incremental benefit. It's very clean and clear cut. But the problem is, that's not the only return on investing in college. College may have consumption value. Maybe you enjoy learning. Maybe you enjoy coming to campus and socializing with friends, being a part of the larger college community. Those kinds of benefits don't show up in the human capital model because they're not easily quantifiable or simplified to a dollar value. As a result, we may understate the value of education by not considering the consumption value, the experience of getting education itself. Another issue is non-wage compensation. In our model, we look at the incremental dollar returns, but we also can look at the incremental dollar returns in terms of pecuniary fringe benefits. Pecuniary means monetary. So if you get a healthcare plan that's worth $10,000 a year, then that's effectively $10,000 more a year. If you get a life insurance policy from your company that's worth $2,000 a year, that's effectively an increase in $2,000 a year. Those pecuniary fringe benefits show up in our model just as incremental wages would. But non-pecuniary fringe benefits don't. They're hard to quantify. They're not easily simplified to a dollar value. For example, working in a more pleasant environment, having an air-conditioned office building, having a job that's not labor-intensive where you get to sit at a desk and work in a from a comfortable chair, working in a place where you like the people you work with and it's conveniently located to where you live. All of these things are a return on college. They're a return on an investment in human capital, but they're not easily simplified to a dollar value. So yeah, we might be able to see that you make an extra $25,000 a year with a college degree, and you get an extra, $12,000 a year in fringe benefits. But we can't really get those non-pecuniary fringe benefits, such as a more pleasant work environment in our model. And as a result, just like education having consumption value, we understate the value of investment in education. We don't see a lot of the benefits that are actually there because they're not easily simplified to a dollar value. In contrast to these, there are some elements that may actually overstate the value of a college education. One is the ability problem. College is correlated, but not necessarily causal with increased earnings. We know that, generally speaking, higher college attainment correlates with higher earnings. But does college attainment actually cause higher earnings? That's a more difficult question to answer because there's a lot of cross-corollaries. Self-discipline, motivation, intelligence, a desire to learn. These all correlate with a college degree and higher earnings. So it's possible, for example, that college degrees don't cause higher earnings. It's possible that maybe motivation does. Maybe more motivated people get a college degree and get higher earnings. But we see the correlation and we jump to causation. Have to be careful with that because there are implications for policy prescriptions. There's a lot of emphasis on getting low-earning individuals more education with the underlying assumption that higher education will cause them higher earnings. But what if that's not the case? What if it is motivation that matters most? Then it would make the most sense to focus on motivating low-earning individuals to achieve higher earnings and a college degree, without any assumption that the college degree causes higher earnings. In the bigger picture, there is likely truth to both. College education probably does cause increased earnings, but so do these other cross-corollaries. And as a result, when we look at those incremental benefits, for example, when we say that a college graduates make $25,000 more than a high school graduate, we know that that $25,000 is in part due to the education from college, but it's also in part due to these corollaries, self-discipline, motivation, intelligence, and a desire to learn that would have increased that individual's earnings anyway. Another issue that is related to the ability problem is called the screening or signaling hypothesis. This suggests that education itself has minimal productivity-enhancing benefits. but signals employers of higher quality workers. Let's say you have a business owner and he needs 5 new hires in the next month. And let's imagine that his business is attractive to workers and 100 people apply. Well, he can't realistically vet 100 people for 5 jobs. So he's going to need a way of screening or signaling among those 100 people who are going to be the best ones for his position. So let's use education to do that. He recognizes that people that go to college have spent money and made a financial investment in their future. People that go to college oftentimes are intelligent. They have a desire to learn. They're disciplined. They're motivated. Notice we're seeing all these ability-related characteristics here. And as a result, he says, well, I'm going to use a college degree as a way to get all these other things. I know they're correlated with a college degree. And so I'm going to narrow down the pool. I'm only going to take college graduates. So of the 100 people, he narrows it down to, let's say, 30 that have college degrees. Well, now it's a much more reasonable number to work with. If he needs 5 people and he starts with 30, that's going to be a lot more daunting, or a lot less daunting to vet than starting with 100. But also recognize that the degree itself was not being used for a skill set. In other words, he didn't say, well, I need accounting majors because this is an accounting job, or I need economic majors because this is going to require a lot of economic type analysis. No, he just said, I need people with college degrees because I think the college degree is correlated with a whole bunch of characteristics that matter for productivity. So we can now summarize the human capital model controversies. We're taking a financial investment model and applying it to human capital, most notably college education. And these 2 factors here, the consumption value of education and non-wage compensation, actually lead to an undervaluation of education. If these 2 factors are dominant, then we're going to put less value on education than we really should, and people are going to get less education than they really should. However, if we look at these 2 factors, education is overvalued. The ability problem and the screening signaling hypothesis lead the college degree to look like it has more influence than it really does, and therefore more people get college degrees than otherwise should. So in the bigger picture, the human capital model gives us a starting point for understanding that investment decision when it comes to education. But there are these nuances that need to be considered.